My dear children, you must be counting your days in school. Still, how many more days do you have to spend in our school? Hardly 3 months. In the month of May, you will be writing your board exams, and you might be thinking of various things which course to take. You might be thinking about your career right now, whether to take BCom or BA, which college should I choose, whether to stay in Chennai and study or go elsewhere. I am reminded of a verse from the scriptures. Commit your works to the Lord, your plans will be established. Commit your work to the Lord, and your plans will be established. We need to trust God with our plans, especially, my dear students. You put your trust only in God. Trust Him with your efforts. You can trust God with all your things because He is good. You can surrender all your plans to the Lord because He is very good. He isn't going to let you down like how people let you down at times of trouble. He is going to always be there to walk you through the challenges that life brings. Even when you appear for the board exams, He is going to be beside you while preparing for your exams. He is going to stay beside you. So decide today to trust in God for your future. Trust in Him and watch your plans succeed. So when you put your trust in the Lord, God will definitely see that all your plans are succeeded. Have a good day. I thought of explaining the principle of accelerator today. So, before getting into the principle of accelerator, let me recall all that we have learned in chapter 4. We have learnt about the various types of investment. We studied about multiplier, the marginal propensity to consume, the average propensity to consume. I have a screen here to explain the autonomous investment and induced investment because that will be useful to understand the operation of accelerator better. So, when we talk about investment, there are two types of investment: autonomous investment and induced investment. So, what do you mean by autonomous investment? Autonomous investment is the expenditure on capital formation which is independent of the change in income, rate of interest, or rate of profit. So, autonomous investment is not dependent on the income or the rate of interest or the rate of profit. Usually, autonomous investment is carried out by the government for welfare motive. For example, the construction of road, bridges, the government schools. The government is pumping lot of money for the welfare of the people. Here it is not profit oriented, it is welfare oriented. The autonomous curve is a horizontal line parallel to the x-axis. So the autonomous curve is horizontal parallel to the x-axis. So look at this diagram here. We have the x-axis and the y-axis. On the x-axis we have the income, and on the y-axis we have the investment. So the autonomous investment curve is a horizontal straight line parallel to the x-axis. So it is income inelastic. It means it is not dependent on income or the rate of interest or the rate of profit. What is induced investment? Induced investment is the expenditure on fixed assets and stocks which are required when the level of income and demand in an economy goes up. So when the income goes up, the induced investment also goes up. If the national income increases, the investment also increases. So you can understand that induced investment is dependent on income. It is dependent on the rate of interest. It is dependent on the rate of profit. Induced investment is income elastic. That means whenever there is a change in the income, there is a change in the investment. Induced investment is positively sloped. So look at this diagram, it slopes upwards. That means as the income increases, the investment also increases. This is mostly done for profit motive. So autonomous investment is independent, induced investment is planned. Autonomous investment is income elastic, induced investment is income elastic. Autonomous investment is for welfare motive, whereas induced investment is for profit motive. Now let us go on to the operation of the accelerator principle. This is found on page number 69 in your textbooks. So what is accelerator? Accelerator is the coefficient. The accelerator coefficient is the ratio between induced investment and an initial change in consumption. So accelerator is given as beta is equal to delta I divided by delta C. So the accelerator coefficient is the ratio between induced investment and an initial change in the consumption. So accelerator beta is equal to change in investment divided by change in consumption. Assuming the expenditure to be 50 crore on consumption goods and 100 crore on investment goods, the accelerator beta is equal to, what is the change in investment? It is 100 crore divided by 50, you get 2. So how do you calculate accelerator? Change in investment divided by change in consumption. Okay. Let us consider a simple example here. The operation of the accelerator may be illustrated as follows. Let us suppose that in order to produce 1,000 consumer goods, 100 machines are required. So to produce 1,000 consumer goods, how many machines are required? 100 machines are required. So what are consumer goods? Goods are products bought for consumption by the average consumer. That is, whatever goods we buy for consumption is called as consumer goods. They are also called as final goods. It can be fridge, or it can be food, clothing. All these come under consumer goods. The jewelry are examples for consumer goods. The basic raw materials, such as copper and silver, they are not called as consumer goods because they must be transformed into usable products. So raw materials are not called as consumer goods. The goods that you buy from the shop and that you, if when you use it directly, that is only called as consumer goods. So to produce 1,000 consumer goods, 100 machines are required. Okay. Also, suppose that the working life of each machine is only 10 years. So, for every 10 years, the machine has to be replaced because the machine can work only for 10 years. Also, suppose that the working life of a machine is 10 years. This means that every 10 machines have to be replaced in order to maintain the constant flow of 1,000 consumer goods. If you want to have 1,000 consumer goods, you have to replace the machines every year. You have to replace 10 machines every year. Hope you can understand it. To produce 1,000 goods constantly without reducing the number of consumer goods, we need 100 machines. But the life of each machine is only for 10 years. That means 10 machines have to be replaced every year. சரியா? அந்த 1,000 கன்சியூமர் குட்ஸ் நம்ம தொடர்ந்து எந்த இடையூறு இல்லாமல் ஸ்டாப் பண்ணாமல் ப்ரொடியூஸ் பண்ணோன்னா 100 மிஷின்ஸில் 10 மிஷினை எவ்ரி இயர் நம்ம என்ன பண்ணிகிட்டே இருக்கணும், ரீப்ளேஸ் பண்ணிகிட்டே இருக்கணும். This is called as replacement demand because we are changing 10 machines every year. That is called as replacement demand. ஓகே, ஸோ 1000 கன்சியூமர் குட்ஸ் வேணும்னா 10 மிஷினை நம்ம என்ன பண்ணிகிட்டே இருக்கணும், மாற்றிக்கிட்டே இருக்கணும் எவ்ரி இயர். Suppose that the demand for consumer goods rises by 10%. Now they are producing 1000 consumer goods. Now the demand has increased by 10%. So 1000ல 10% எவ்வளவு, 100. That means now we have to produce 1000. Instead of 1000 we have to produce 1000 plus 100. That is 1100 machines because the demand has increased by 10%. So from 1000 we have to produce 1100 machines. This results in the increase in demand for 10 more machines. So for 100 goods we need 10 machines. Okay, ஒரு எக்ஸ்ட்ரா 100 ஆகுதுல்ல, இந்த 100க்கு தனியாக ஒரு 10 மிஷின்ஸ் தேவை. ஏற்கனவே இந்த 1000க்கு நம்ம ஒரு 100 மிஷின்ஸ் யூஸ் பண்ணுறோம். இப்போ இந்த 100க்கு ஒரு 10 மிஷின்ஸ் தேவை. So what happens? The demand for machine has become 20. How did it become 20? 10 for the replacement because every machine has to be replaced in 10 machines have to be replaced every year. So 10 for replacement and 10 for meeting the increased demand. புரிஞ்சிருக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறேன். ரீப்ளேஸ்மெண்ட்டுக்காக 10 மிஷின் எவ்ரி இயர் மாத்திரம். இங்கே அப்படி தானே சொல்லியிருக்கோம், 10 மிஷின்ஸ் ஹாவ் டு பி ரீப்ளேஸ்ட் எவ்ரி இயர். ஸோ அந்த ரீப்ளேஸ்மெண்ட்டுக்கு ஒரு 10ம், இப்போ நம்ம இன்க்ரீஸ் பண்ணியிருக்கோம் பாருங்க 100 கன்சியூமர் குட்ஸு, அதுக்கு ஒரு 10 மிஷின்ஸ் தேவை. அப்போ இப்போ மிஷினுடைய டிமாண்ட் எவ்வளோ ஆயிடுச்சு, 10 ஆயிடுச்சு. ஸோ இட் மே பி நோட்டட் ஹியர் the 10% increase in demand for consumer goods causes a 100% increase in the demand for machines. புரியுதா? இப்போ 10% இன்க்ரீஸ் தான் ஆயிடுச்சு கன்சியூமர் குட்ஸ், 1000லேருந்து 1100. ஆனால் மிஷினுடைய டிமாண்ட் என்ன ஆயிடுச்சு, 10லேருந்து 20 ஆயிடுச்சு, 10லேருந்து 20. அப்போ அப்படியே டபுள் ஆயிருக்கு. அப்போ 100% இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆயிடுச்சு. ஸோ வி கேன் கன்க்ளூட் even a mild change in demand for consumer goods will lead to wide change in investment. So what do we understand from here? When there is a mild change in the consumption, okay, there is a vast change in the investment. So here the consumption changes because of a mild change in the demand for consumer good. It leads to a wide change in investment. 10% தான் கன்சியூமர் குட்ஸ்க்கு தேவை. Okay, consumption increases by 10%, whereas the investment for capital goods increases by 100%. Okay, ஸோ ஒரு சின்ன சேஞ்ச் கன்சியூமர் குட்ஸில் ஆயினா கூட வைட் சேஞ்ச் எதில் ஆகுது, இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட்டில் ஆகுது. ஹோப் யூ அண்டர்ஸ்டுட் திஸ் கேர்ள்ஸ். Okay, let me explain this with a graph. Okay, we have a graph here, x-axis, y-axis. SS is the saving curve. Here SS is called as the saving curve and II is called as the investment curve. This is given in your textbook, but along with this I will give you additional information, okay, for you to understand this graph better. SS is the saving curve and II is the investment curve. So what about investment? There are two types of investment. We have already seen that. Autonomous investment and induced investment. So I2, I3, I4, these are also investment curves, but they are autonomous investment curve because already I explained to you autonomous investment curves are horizontal straight line parallel to the x-axis, whereas induced investment has positive slope. So with that, I2, I3 and I4 are called autonomous. They are horizontal straight line parallel to the x-axis, whereas I and I1 are induced investment curves because the induced investment slopes upwards. This is income inelastic, whereas this is income elastic. All that we have learned in this slide. Okay, so SS is the saving curve, II is the investment curve. So SS, this green color curve is saving curve, and II is the investment curve. So at this is the point of equilibrium. E1 is the point of equilibrium. At E1, the economy is in equilibrium with OY1 income, because on the x-axis we have marked the income. On the y-axis we have the savings and investment. So at point E1, the economy is in equilibrium with OY1 income, and savings is at OI2. ஸோ E1 ஃபஸ்ட்டு கண்டுபிடிக்கணும். E1 எப்படி கண்டுபிடிக்கிறோம்? சேவிங்ஸ் கர்வும் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் கர்வும் கட் பண்ணுற இடம் தான் என்னது? ஈக்குவலிபிரியம். இந்த ஈக்குவலிபிரியம்க்கு நேராக ஒரு கோடு இங்கே போடுங்க. இன்கம்க்கு, சேவிங்ஸ் அண்ட் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட்க்கு இங்கே ஒரு கோடு போட்டிங்கன்னா OY1 இஸ் த இன்கம் and OI2 is the savings and investment. Now, the investment is increased from OI2 to OI4. So, initially the investment was OI2. I am talking about this autonomous investment. Now, come to this autonomous investment. OI2 la irundha autonomous investment has increased to OI4. Okay, so here you get a new equilibrium. Take this I4 line and the savings line. You get E3. இந்த இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் கர்வும் இந்த சேவிங்ஸ் கர்வும், இங்கேயும் இந்த இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் எடுத்தாலும் அதுதான் E1. இங்கே வந்து அது வந்து என்னது? E3. E3லேருந்து ஸ்ட்ரெயிட்டாக ஒரு லைன் போட்டிங்கன்னா OY3 இஸ் த இன்கம் அண்ட் OI4 இஸ் த சேவிங்ஸ் அண்ட் இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட். ஸோ இன்வெஸ்ட்மெண்ட் இஸ் இன்க்ரீஸ் ஃப்ரம் OI2 to OI4. Income increases from OY1 to OY3. The equilibrium point being E3. If the increase in investment by I2 to I4 is purely exogenous. Exogenous means it is not dependent on income, profit, or the rate of interest. It is autonomous investment. So if the increase in investment from I2 to I4 is exogenous, okay, exogenous, it is autonomous. It is not dependent on the profit, or it is not dependent on the rate of interest, or it is not dependent upon the income. Then the increase in Y1 to Y3 would be due to multiplier effect. ஸோ இங்கேருந்து Y1லேருந்து Y3 வரைக்கும் இன்கம் இன்க்ரீஸ் ஆயிடுச்சுன்னா இது என்ன எஃபெக்ட்? மல்டிப்ளையர். If the investment from I2 to I4 is exogenous, 1 minute. If the increase from I2 to I4 is exogenous, that is autonomous, then the increase from Y1 to Y3 is due to multiplier effect. Hope you understood this. If the increase in investment by I2 to I4 is purely exogenous, okay, purely exogenous, then the increase in income from Y1 to Y3 is due to multiplier effect. Now, let us assume that the exogenous investment is only from I2 to I3. They are just assuming that only up to from I2 to I3 it is exogenous. Okay, first they said I2 to I4 is exogenous. Now they are assuming that the investment from I2 to I3 is exogenous. Okay, and the induced investment is from I3 to I4. From I3 to I4 it is induced investment. Induced investment is income elastic. It depends on the income, it depends on the rate of interest, it depends on the profit. Okay, exogenous is mostly done by the government. So they are just assuming. First சொன்னாங்க I2லேருந்து I4 வந்து exogenous. அப்படி இருந்தால் Y1லேருந்து Y2 வரைக்கும் என்னது? மல்டிப்ளையர் எஃபெக்ட். Now they are saying I2 to I3 மட்டும் என்னது? exogenous. I3லேருந்து I4 வரைக்கும் என்னது? induce. அப்படி இருக்கும் பட்சத்தில், therefore the increase from Y1 to Y2 இங்கிருந்து இது வரைக்கும் தனியா is due to multiplier effect, and from Y2 to Y3 it is accelerator effect. Are you able to understand? First I said I2 to I4 வந்து exogenous. If it is exogenous, the increase in income from Y1 to Y3 is multiplier. Now we are assuming from I2 to I3 the investment is exogenous, And from I3 to I4, the income is induced. I'm sorry, not income. The investment is induced. That means from Y1 to Y1 to Y2, it is multiplier effect. Y1, Y2 is multiplier effect, and Y2, Y3 is accelerator effect. So this is the operation of the accelerator. Hope you understood this. So we have a question at the back of the lesson. Question number 39. Explain the operation of the accelerator. If that question is asked, I repeat, 39th question. Explain the operation of the accelerator. For that, first you can write a line about accelerator. You can write the definition for the accelerator. Okay. You can write the definition for accelerator. Then you can write the formula for accelerator. You write the definition, then you write the formula, then you can straight away go to this example. You write this full, okay? You have to write this complete paragraph, then you have to draw this graph and you have to give the explanation, okay? So this is the answer for question number 39. 39. Explain the operation of accelerator. So you have the answer in your textbook. Where is the answer? It is found on page number 69 under 4.5.4. Operation of the acceleration principle. Then you have the diagrammatic illustration. Before writing this, you can give the definition which is found on page number 69, 4.5.2. The accelerator coefficient is the ratio between induced investment and initial change in consumption. Then you can write the formula found on page number 68. Accelerator beta is equal to delta I by delta C. Hope this is clear, girls. Okay, you have to learn it properly. First, you understand the concept, then you try to memorize it, then you have to write down and see. Because only when you write down, you get stuck up in between. So it is always better to memorize. First, you understand the concept, then you memorize. Write it at least 2 or 3 times. Okay, I think this will be helpful for you. Thank you, girls.